Alright, so today I'm going to tell you how to get stronger using supplements. Now this is not like cardio type strength. I think for endurance type exercise, like 20-minute, 30-minute cardio or more than that, there's quite a lot of different things you can do. It's more obvious what you should be doing. Just increasing sugar metabolism and fat metabolism and temperature, like thyroid work, would all help the endurance type exercise. But for strength, at least in my experience, it does not really correlate to the energy you feel in your body. So I've often woken up where my energy is just like super high and I'm raring to go, and I run out to the gym, and then my lifts are just terrible. They're all in the gutter and I can't do anything. But other days I wake up and I have almost no energy and I barely any blood sugar being produced, and I don't eat breakfast and I go to the gym and I feel awful. But then for some reason I'm incredibly strong. And this has for a long time been a mystery to me, and I think it's a mystery to a lot of people. But I want to try and explain it how I view it now. So the type of strength I'm talking about is necessarily like 1 rep max or at most like 10 rep max, anything you will be doing as a strength training athlete in the gym. Now over my years of taking supplements, there have been a few times, but one time in particular stands out where I took something and it had an immediate massive impact on my strength levels. And the thing I took was lectin. I'll write that on the screen somewhere. But it's basically in the contents of egg yolks, and it's a fatty acid type gelatinous glob, basically, lectin. And it contains fatty acids such as phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylserine, and phosphatidic acid. They're all horrible to pronounce, but basically it goes into making cell membranes and such like that. And one day I decided I would take this lectin. I don't remember why, I just took it for whatever reason. And I took a tablespoon of lectin in the morning before I went to the gym. And when I got to the gym, I was doing bench press, and I could usually do at the time like 8 reps of 80 kilograms on bench press. Forgive me, I'm not particularly a strong person. But this day, I went to the gym after taking lectin, and I immediately got very easily 11 reps on the same bench press, the same setup as I always do it. And I could probably done more. I could have probably got like 13 or so fairly easily. And at the time, I was very convinced this was connected to the lectin I was taking. I started with lectin, it immediately improved. It continued to stay at that same improved level after I kept taking lectin. So I was fairly confident it was the lectin doing this, but I didn't really understand why. And since then, I've basically figured out what was going on with this. And it's to do with how the nerve interacts with the muscle. So to create a muscle contraction, your nerve synapse, which is connected to the muscle, releases a bunch of neurotransmitters. And the neurotransmitters interact with the muscle and generate a contraction, basically. And these neurotransmitters are a molecule called acetylcholine. Now, I doubt anyone will have connected this, but lectin, one of the components I previously mentioned, was phosphatidylcholine. So they both contain this choline molecule. So I think it's quite likely, at the time I took this lectin, I was deficient in the choline and unable to produce as much acetylcholine as I would have liked. Now, is there any way you can deduce for yourself if you're potentially deficient in this choline other than just being weak, as we all are? One possible other thing you can take into account is your inflammation in your body. Because one other usage of the acetylcholine is it is used to stimulate the production of cortisol. Now cortisol is, doctors call it like the stress hormone or whatever. It's not really a stress hormone. It reduces your inflammation, and it also increases blood pressure in a way. But primarily it reduces inflammation. So if you're someone who has a lot of residual inflammation in your body, then potentially you are low on cortisol and also potentially low on acetylcholine. So you may get a strength increase from taking something like lectin. Now, I absolutely love lectin. It is one of my favorite supplements of everything I've ever tried. It's very, very good for strength training and bodybuilding other than just strength increases. So I mentioned previously it was related to producing cell membranes. So if you want to make new cells, which you probably do as a bodybuilder or strength athlete, then it is very useful. And there's a specific component of it called phosphatidic acid, which has a lot of research surrounding it regarding muscle hypertrophy. So that alone is very beneficial to take for you. So I would definitely recommend anyone who wants to increase their strength level, or just any strength athlete, to give lectin a go. And there is another nutrient which I think could potentially be used for strength. I haven't had personal experience in this, but it's related to the same theory on strength, which is sodium. Now, sodium how is it related? I mentioned before how you have your nerve synapse, which releases neurotransmitters which interact with the muscle to generate the contraction. And they do not actually interact with the muscle directly. What they do is open a channel for sodium to move into the muscle, and that sodium entering the muscle generates the muscle contraction. So if you do not have enough sodium, you may also be slightly suboptimal in your strength levels. Now, sodium is table salt, basically, so I think anyone eating standard American diet will probably have plenty of sodium. But it's also fairly likely, if you're a strength athlete or a bodybuilder or someone taking this seriously, then you might be someone just eating white rice and chicken breast and broccoli and otherwise very, very healthy levels of nutrition. But failing to salt the meal may be a potential downfall of that type of diet. I think salt has a very, very bad reputation in medical literature. Like all the medical journals or just the media say it raises blood pressure and you should try to minimize your salt intake. And it does have some sort of effect on blood pressure. I've never personally found it to raise my blood pressure, but one potential mechanism it could raise blood pressure by is it will reduce the levels of your other electrolytes. So potentially potassium, which has a very pronounced blood pressure lowering effect, could get reduced by taking too much salt, and then you might end up with a bit of higher blood pressure. So you do need to watch out for that and potentially add in a bit of potassium if you find a blood pressure raising effect from the sodium. But I personally supplement both lectin and salt every day. I take maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons of lectin now. It's one of my favorite supplements. I absolutely love it. And salt, I take half a teaspoon in the morning and half a teaspoon in the evening, which sounds like a lot. It does make whatever you're taking it with taste very salty, but it really helps you to keep your energy levels and strength levels up. It's quite easy to get into salt deficiency without realizing it, so you definitely want to test a little extra salt every so often at least to see if it has a big impact on your performance and health in general. All right, that's basically all I wanted to talk about today. Let me know if you managed to increase your strength with any of these tips, and I will talk to you later. And subscribe. Thanks. Bye-bye.